Well, we've been telling you about the gunning down of Ahmaud Arbery outside of Brunswick, Georgia, in Glynn County while jogging in his own neighborhood in broad daylight, February 23rd.
Yeah, that killing of this young man, who would have been 26 tomorrow, has gone unanswered. None of the three or four, perhaps, white men believed to have been involved in this case have been arrested by Glynn County, Georgia police. The whole awful incident was captured on video, the three shotgun blasts clearly audible.
Joining us now is attorney Benjamin Crump, who has worked far too many of these cases, including that of Trayvon Martin. Now he is part of this legal team. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening, Attorney Crump.
Thank you, Laverne and Fred, for having me to continue to talk about this important matter.
And thank you. And listen, there seems to be debate out there as to whether Shaun King, who first posted this footage on Twitter, should have done so using that medium. What are your thoughts and, if any, your concerns about that, attorney?
You talking about the video?
Yes, sir.
Well, the video should have been released. The video was released allegedly by their attorney, Tucker, who is one time or still representing the McMichaels murderous duo, this father and son, who killed Ahmaud Arbery on that video, that horrific video. And so for Sean or LeBron James or anybody else to repost the video, I know I've reposted it because people need to see that in 2020 that they did this to an unarmed young African American and went home and slept in their beds at night.
So, Attorney Crump, we're hearing a lot of outrage also. I'm sure you've been hearing about the shooting of the young man in Indianapolis as well. What are your thoughts on that case?
Well, I know some of his family members have contacted me and my law firm about that tragedy. We're still learning more about it, but based on what you see on the Facebook Live, it seems that he was running away, and if he was shot in the back multiple times, then that's just excessive use of force, and it's not justifiable. You can't say I'm in fear of my life, but yet a person is running away from you. I know one of the chapters in my book, Legalize Genocide of Colored People, chapter 2 is called The Police Don't Shoot White Men in the Back, because, Fred, it hardly ever happens, but them shooting black men in the back is almost like a cliche.
Well, let me ask you this too about the video aspect of this thing. We touched on it last night when you were our guest. How important is it that we have these videos? And I'm thinking about Emmett Till back in 1955 with the open casket and that gruesome image. But had we not had that, aren't we doomed to repeat those kinds of horrors?
I certainly think so. And so I think Emmett Till, I think more recently Trayvon Martin, and the eerie similarities between the killing of Trayvon Martin and Ahmaud Arbery, when you think about the fact that both of them were killed in February, Trayvon on the 26th in 2012, Ahmaud on February 23rd, 2020. The fact that they both were accused of alleged burglaries, Trayvon coming home from the 7-Eleven and Ahmaud going jogging, and there was absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any one of these young men committed burglary, but that's what their killers said, and the law enforcement officials took it as the gospel. The fact that both the prosecutors had conflicts in Trayvon Martin, allegedly, and then here, alleged conflicts of interest in Ahmaud's case. The fact that, both of these killers went weeks before anybody was arrested in Trayvon's case, and weeks before anybody has been arrested now in Ahmaud's case. The fact that, the pursuit, we have objective evidence that there was a pursuit in Trayvon. It was audio, Fred. We could hear it. But now, Laverne, in this case, with Ahmaud, we actually see the pursuit with our own eyes on that video. And then lastly, when you think about the fact that nobody from the local agencies arrested them on the day of the killing. In Florida, the state had to take over with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and now the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, GBI, has taken over. And our only demand, since they said they're going to have fresh eyes on this case and they're not going to rely on anything from the Southeast Georgia local law enforcement officials, then that is enough. If you got fresh eyes on this case, just use those fresh eyes to look at the video and you have probable cause to make an arrest.
It does seem so cut and dry, but walk us through what happened in the court system with Trayvon Martin. People are comparing this case. Let's give people a refresher of exactly what happened when George Zimmerman was facing charges and what the outcome was.
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, the jury exonerated the killer of Trayvon Martin based on the elements of the Stand Your Ground law. And the prosecutor in that case was a special prosecutor. We have to have prosecutors who zealously prosecute the cases like they prosecute us every day, our children, every day. They can always get convictions there, but it's rare that prosecutors get convictions when law enforcement or quasi-law enforcement people kill our children. However, I am cautiously optimistic because recently in a lot of the high-profile cases that we have handled, whether it be Corey Jones in Palm Beach, Florida, who was featured in the Super Bowl commercial, the young man, the church drummer who was broke down on the side of the road, and the police officer in plain clothes, jeans, t-shirt, baseball cap, and an unmarked cargo van came and killed him. And thank God he was on the tape recorder with the tow truck company because they captured it all, and we never would have caught him in all those lies. The jury convicted him and sent that police officer away for 25 years. And then in Marquise McGlockton, another wannabe cop trying to detain black people and enforce their thoughts and will on black people, shot Marquise McGlockton in front of his 3 infant children, his 5-year-old son, his 3-year-old daughter, and his 1-year-old son. And it was a painful video because his son reaches out to him as his father falls before his feet and dies. And that jury rejected the Stand Your Ground defense and sent him away for 25 years. And most recently, Botham Jones in Dallas, Texas, who was in his apartment, and the white policewoman allegedly went into the wrong apartment, Amber Geiger, and killed him. And the jury did not buy her defense of self-defense and convicted her, and she was sentenced to 10 years. So I'm cautiously optimistic with the video and a prosecutor who is zealous, we will get justice for Ahmaud Arbery.
And Attorney Crump, let me ask you this. The wheels of justice all too often turn too slowly, as you well know much more than I. But I know that the grand jury was not set to convene in Georgia in the Ahmaud Arbery case until next month because of COVID-19. Since we last spoke 24 hours ago, is there any movement on that? Is there any change that the grand jury may be forced to convene by the governor?
Unfortunately, we haven't heard anything from the governor's office removing his executive order that says the courts and the juries cannot convene until June 12th. However, we continue to stress that they don't need a grand jury to arrest this murderous duo, this father and son. They don't need a grand jury to do that. All they need to look at is at the video. And Laverne, they also should arrest the person who videotaped that this execution, who was allegedly in the vehicle with the father and the son chasing Ahmaud.
Well, there's so much to consider here, and we really appreciate you helping us go through the process and understand what's going on here. So many people are outraged. It just seems to be happening over and over again, and we appreciate the work that you do to try to make the system do better.
Could you please come back and keep us posted, Attorney?
Absolutely, Fred. Y'all call anytime.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Have a good night.